Hello, welcome to the Week 13 edition of Talking Underdog Fantasy and Battle Royale. It is already December. This season has flown by, and in winter spirit, even though it's probably about 74 degrees out here in Florida, I'm still rocking the new swag, the new merch. All right, how's everyone else doing? Happy December. We are through the Thanksgiving break. Fun weekend in the past. I did some travels myself, had a little football weekend, had a chance to go up to Columbus for the Ohio State Michigan game, then drove to Cleveland for the Bucks Browns game. Fun little weekend of football. So took the week off from battle royales and stuff. So won't be doing any reviews from last week. It was a bit of kind of weird slate as well, with obviously the Thanksgiving aspects. But we are back. We're going to be jumping through. That game sucked. I don't know which one of the two you're referencing, as I'm not an Ohio State guy myself, but my family's there, so that was my cheering interest. That was a rough game. Michigan having 5 plays of 69 yards or more was crazy. The Browns-Bucks one was definitely a fun one. Got a little rainy in the fourth quarter there, but got some OT. Would have loved for Cooper to have been the one who actually got those extra 2 yards instead of Chubb. But that's just best ball talking. Overall fun game. 108,000 people in one stadium up in Columbus was insane. Just that environment, that atmosphere. I don't know. I was on match from a sporting event from what I've been to. The actual stadium was honestly just, I don't know. It was meh. Like literally no food, no beer selection. The wait for any bathroom was insane. But I guess, hey, when you've got to fit 108,000 people in one stadium, you have to cut corners. And it was a cool experience, though, tailgate and everything. And weather overall wasn't too bad. But let's get into why we're all here. Some Battle Royale stuff. So starting off, we do have the updated rankings on the ETR site. We put those up. We pushed those, did some manual adjustments earlier this morning as well. So check those out. As always, just to give a quick refresher, recap of what goes into those. So we take our DFS projections, we combine those with some automated kind of value analysis based off value above replacement, and then we take some manual checks there to make sure that, hey, these are best prepared to best prepare you for this week, get everything set up there. And for anyone that is new to Underdog Fantasy, you can still sign up for the account using promo code ETR, get that deposit match of up to $100, and then you can jump into one of these Battle Royales with me. All right, let's get into things. Shout out first to one of our loyal listeners, Danny Deals, took down, I think it was second place for $8,000 a couple weeks back. So always great to see some of our, the loyal listeners having big weeks, see him on the leaderboard. Chad, if any of you ever do have some big hits or, hey, success, tag me on Twitter. We can definitely review those lineups and such and go from there. Okay, for this week, I think it's an interesting week and one of those where we really want to be paying attention throughout the week, and probably I'll be doing majority of my drafting on Saturday. And so why is that specific to this week? Well, I think QBs is interesting. You have 2 studs that could have the highest upside because of the rushing floor that are being drafted in the 30 plus. So Lamar is 30.9. He had that practice kind of, walked away from practice yesterday. We'll see what happens today. But again, obviously if Lamar is starting, he has QB1 upside, and more than just QB1 upside, he can blow away the field because of, just Lamar. Other guy would be Justin Fields. His ADP is 35.4. We, with our ranks, believe he's probably not going to play, but that's not a sure thing. And so that's one of those things where, hey, if we get that surprising news at the end of the week, like, hey, he actually is going to play, not only will his ADP be extremely low, but he's also not being drafted virtually, in majority of these drafts, since his ADP is 35.4 throughout this week. So you'd be able to get him at probably something around like 10 to 20% ownership, depending on when that news would come out. So those are 2 of the kind of QB situations I'm looking at as the week goes on. From a running back wise, there's a lot at the top that are really interesting. So even our top projected guy at ETR, Josh Jacobs, is questionable, and we're really not sure if he's going to play. Yes, he had that huge week last week, but it was interesting because even going into that week, there was still a little questionable, like, hey, is this injury going to keep him off the field? Will it impact the work? So why I think that's interesting is like, hey, he's, ADP is 9.5. If we get the health note that he's going to start, that he's 100% in, like maybe his ADP moves up like a few spots up to like, I don't know, 5, but like you're not getting substantial value. But if we find out that Jacobs is not playing, then you've got what, 1 out of every 6 draft, their running back is going to be swapped out for someone else, and they're giving up that first or second round pick as value. So there is substantial value there, in doing that. Hey, just because you weren't drafting earlier on, or if you were fading him, other 2 guys not as high, but still being drafted, CMC and ETN. Both of those are injuries we will continue to watch. Both of those, if they're healthy and play, have strong upside, but we're going to want to keep an eye on them. End of the running back position, I think the situation that is most intriguing for if we're drafting right now is the Najee and Jalen situation. We are likely not going to get Najee, but he still has the Q tag. We are likely to get Jalen after being back at practice yesterday. Both of them currently have an ADP of 36.0, meaning no one is drafting them. This is a situation where I would lean into drafting Najee, because if Najee starts, he's been getting a strong workload, can still have a great game. It's a great matchup. But if he doesn't, you're getting that Jalen, and all signs point to Jalen is going to start. And in the way, crazy situation, it's not crazy. If Jalen and Najee end up both not playing, you can still then swap to Benny Snell, and you're still getting probably 80-90% of what you would get out of the other guys. So that's probably the kind of game theory, uniqueness play that I'd probably be keeping an eye on. Because again, we do love that matchup. It's probably one of the softest like running back matchups that Pittsburgh is going to get. Wide receivers. Take a look at the wide receivers. You can continue with that strategy that I've been employing, which is the 2 elite wide receivers, because they really do have such, the mean and upside scenario versus the others. But once you get past like the elite ones, I think that's where this is an interesting one. If you look at pure projections, like the 9th best wide receiver that we have projected is Jalen Waddle. He's got an ADP of about 20.2, I think. Guys not getting drafted are only 2 points off his projection. So the difference between the 9th best and guys who aren't being drafted at all is a projection total of literally 2 points. That to me is a great sign to say like, hey, I want to go for the guys that are, either elite because we know that value there, or I'm looking for the guys that aren't being drafted at all because I'm only giving up like 2 points of projections. So keep an eye on that for the wide receiver position as we go through. From an injury, not too much to say here, other than I think Mike Williams is probably the one that if I wanted to go for, hey, he's being drafted at 35.9, he's day-to-day. Does he play? We're not sure. I'm willing to take that chance because I know I'm getting a very low owned with a strong upside scenario for him if he does play. And if he doesn't, you can then swap to one of those other late guys that, again, you're not giving up much projection there. And the last position is tight ends. I think this is kind of a don't get cute kind of situation with tight ends. We've got the elite 2, we'll say, Kelsey in a tier of his own, going 1 overall, well-deserved. After that, with Hawkinson and Kittle, I think like Hawkinson has one of the strongest projections just because the volume and the role he's had in Minnesota. Kittle has them more from the upside, which is that ceiling is dragging up his projection. And honestly, after that, like it's just hard to kind of say, hey, I'm going to go off the board and think you have a chance at beating out the Kelseys in this situation. I love doing the, grab that 35.7 guy when you don't have Kelsey, when you don't have Mark Andrews. But here, I'm trying to get the elite ones. If I'm not, I'm trying not to give up too many points by grabbing one of those Hawkins and Kittles. Or I'll go with someone that's stacked with my QB. Earlier this morning, I did one. I grabbed Burrow, and I'm like, okay, you know what? Hayden Hurst had 9 targets last week. Yes, it's not as good as those top guys, but I used it with my last pick. I put him in, and I'm just hoping that Burrow has that 4-touchdown, 5-touchdown day, and Hurst gets at least one of them. So, okay, I think that's for the most part kind of going through the slate. We'll jump into draft. Let me take a look at chat real quick, see if there's any questions here. All right, Paul asking, how do you set your swap rankings if multiple RBs are ruled out? I think you're asking more from a strategic sense, not like from an actual how do you do it sense. You can clarify that, but I think you're saying like, hey, how do I kind of employ that? For me, it's more. I mean, it's more of okay. I'm not thinking of correlation or anything with the swaps because you're just not going to be able to force that in. It's just how do I rank these guys from a projection combined with a uniqueness and how low they're being drafted. And so for me, I'm always going to be ranking a bunch because let's say Jalen Warren is going to be my top guy. But the thing is that like I don't know in every draft if Jalen Warren might have been drafted. So let's say I think that Jalen Warren's the guy that I want to swap in, but like in 1 out of 10 drafts, someone else actually drafted Jalen Warren. So I need to make sure that I have a second and a third and a fourth anyways. And so when I'm doing that strategically, I'm always pretty much going like I'd say 5, 6, 7 all the way down. Unless like I'm pretty much going like 5, 6, 7, just like knowing that like, hey, I want to make sure that I'm getting these guys. And so if I have multiple running backs in my lineup that are ruled out, well, same thing. I'm just going down that same list. I'm still taking Jalen Warren with the first if he's available, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. I don't think the process really changes. So if you think that I'm missing something, would love to hear kind of what your thoughts are there. Jay Steele asking, can you show me how to upload the ETR rankings? Send me a DM and I can help you out there. It's honestly pretty simple. From a high level, it's just you go to the ETR site, you click on the CSV, you download the CSV, you then go over to the Underdog rankings, you then click upload CSV, you'll choose the file that you recently just downloaded, and it should automatically go there. If you are having any actual issues, shoot me a DM. I mean, beyond if that doesn't solve it, shoot me a DM and I can try to help you out manually. All right. Is Mike White a good swap off of Fields? I don't hate it. For me with Mike White, though, I'd probably want to be going into the drafts where I'm going to, make sure that I have a Garrett Wilson or type situation. When I'm doing swaps off of, QB, I like to get guys that kind of are like a Daniel Jones or where he can, I'm not dependent upon the stack aspect for him to thrive. Mike White in that situation kind of is a bit risky where like if Mike White has his nut outcome and like, has an amazing game, most likely at least one of his wide receivers is going to have it as well. So you're kind of chasing points there. So traditionally when I'm going for a swap for QB, I want someone who I think may be able to get me like a rushing touchdown. But I will say in general, I don't mind Mike White because I think that range of outcomes on someone like him is still so wide that maybe they do just continue to keep kind of throwing, keep the same rhythm, keep the same kind of pattern of what you saw with Flacco and such at the beginning of the year, throwing so much. And then White comes in last week and does it successfully. There's a ton of weapons there. So I don't hate Mike White this weekend. All right, I'm going to go through these last couple questions, then we'll jump into drafts. Thoughts on Watson, Cooper, DPJ things this week? I love it. Widest range of outcomes with Watson. I think his ADP is too low in these. I'm definitely going to be grabbing a bunch of him. Who knows what's going to be going on there in Houston? Like, yeah, it's a very easy matchup, and yeah, they could just run Chubb. Obviously, Chubb's ADP is very high. We're a little lower on the board than him. But also, you don't know what's in Watson's mindset with right now with everything that happened. Like, you could very easily see Watson. He's just in scorch earth territory, rushes, throws, and like even if you get rid of like the mental side of things, this is a new QB who we know has a rushing ability, we know has an explosive ability, we know has a big play ability. We don't know how Cleveland is going to leverage that, and maybe Cleveland sets up the offense perfectly for him and wants him just to kind of go scorched earth and uses this as practice for the rest of the season because they haven't had any games, and plays all 4 quarters and puts up 48 points. Like we don't know. But that is in the range of outcomes where we know more about other teams and the way that kind of things play out. So love Watson, love his stat catchers, and throw in Njoku in that grouping as well. Who do you like more as an off-board QB, Trevor Lawrence or Geno Smith? Let me think about that as we go through. Honestly, love them both. Trevor Lawrence's last 3 games have been phenomenal from an actual QB development-wise. Really excited to see that, that 1 year of Urban Meyer really was more Urban than anything else. Trevor Lawrence wasn't the greatest start this year, but it seems like things are really starting to click. And so would love to see that. And then Geno, I'm always a fan of because he does, concentrated offense with a bit of a rushing upside. And DK seems like a decent value as going through with ADPs as well. Jay Steele DM me on Twitter. Okay, let's jump into some drafts. All right, here we go. Also, wild card, playoff best ball. We're gonna have some fun with that going forward. Was just talking to the guys at ETR earlier today. I'm gonna be building some rankings for those, putting them on the ETR site. I've got an article from previous year that goes through high level strategy. If you wanted to check that out for the playoff best ball, I'll probably update that with some thoughts for this year. And then we'll get those rankings going because the rankings are really interesting because a lot of it comes down to kind of playoff probability aspects. What about the bye? And then from a strategy wise, it's most important because it all comes down to stacking and playing for that championship. But that's a whole other conversation. Lots of fun there. If people are interested in playoff best ball, give me a shout out, give ETR a shout out saying you're excited. Just extra motivation for us to kind of continue to dive into that format as we get closer to the playoffs. Okay. We got the 4 spot. We got I was inverted in here. I see you in chat. Let's see. Anyone else in chat that's in this group, give us a shout out. I'll give you the shout out as well. As always, I've got the ETR ranks uploaded in here. I think as I go through this, the biggest outlier for me or the biggest kind of just, noteworthy thing is this Josh Jacobs. We are basing off a full bill of health and that he is healthy here. In these drafts right now, I'm probably not drafting him. I'm definitely not drafting him at 3rd overall. If he falls to me in the 2nd, that's when I will maybe start considering him at this 9. But just obviously important to keep in mind the bill of health aspect. All right, so let's take a look. So the Trevor Lawrence and the Geno, I mean, you look at from a ETR projections wise, they're right there. This 35.9 is probably why I would lean Geno. I mean, that means he's being drafted in less than 5% of drafts, very, very small. We know the Rams have basically given up on this year. Yes, at Detroit is basically the Coors Field, so great opportunity there. I mean, I don't hate either for when we're trying to chase the Mahomes and the Hurts. Those seem like good stackable options. But again, I'd much rather have those 2 guys as I am drafting. All right, let's grab Justin Jefferson. I'd rather have those 2 guys as I'm drafting so I can make sure that I'm getting my stacks than grabbing them as naked swaps later on. Okay. Darren, are you telling me to pick one between the 2? I don't know. I'm picking both, and I picked Geno because of the ADP. All right, we're back here. So we've got Devontae. Jacobs is now our clear ADP number 1. Cousins versus the Jets, maybe a Mike White. I don't need to reach for the Philly with Jalen Hurts right here. Let's just go for the ADP aspect. We do have him, as we said, very high. We're going to hope that he plays. If he doesn't, then you know what? Maybe we swap that with the Jalen Warren later on. All right. From a stat cost aspect, might make sense. Maybe we can keep an eye on Justin Herbert because, as I mentioned, I really like that Mike Williams situation from earlier with the 35.9 if he actually plays. Keenan's ADP is a lot higher. He's definitely going. But we can at least keep that in mind from a game stack aspect with the Josh Jacobs. The Cousins and Mike White. I don't know. White even drafted at all. Yeah, it feels so bad, but you probably do want to have a few of these in here. Let's check what Garrett Wilson is getting drafted a decent amount. We'll see. It feels a little thin given there's the studs that are on the board this week. But we'll keep an eye and at least keep it as a possibility. I could also see us. We talked about that Geno. We talked about Lawrence. Could go with just a Geno DK later on, depending on if we feel that value is falling to us. And there's other guys we want to go with here. All right, I see you, Darren. Your pick 1. There you go. Okay, Darren PL. I see you in the draft. Taking that Kelsey, obviously got to do the Kelsey. Get a little T Higgins with a bring back. Amon Ra. I like what you're working with there. Yeah, I mean, like we were going back and forth in the rest of season rankings on the pod that was released yesterday. Levitan was talking a little about it, but like I was pushing that I think Kelsey should be number one overall for rest of season rankings. He's just so valuable compared to what else is available right now. Okay. We can stay pretty chalky and just get a strong 2 running backs here. I'm okay with that in this, even though both of them are pretty much injury risk and may not play. We'll figure that out. But I'm okay with that in this situation because I don't love the Kirk Cousins with Jefferson. So I'm okay with saying like, hey, I don't, if I can cement my other positions, I can later on make a decision on, okay, ooh, I could go Hawkins in here. Now that makes obviously the Kirk Cousins a little more interesting. Let's do that. Let's do the double stack. I'm okay doing the double stack when it's with tight end. I don't like doing double stack with the 2 wide receivers. Jefferson and Hawkinson can both very easily hit their top 10% outcomes. We can get rid of the Herbert. We can get rid of the Mike White. We can pretty much lock in Cousins with our final pick. And now with a wide receiver, I think Garrett Wilson is probably get a little glitch there. There we go. All right, we've got Garrett Wilson. I think he probably makes sense for our bring back if we're going to be going with a double stack. Always best to try to, you expect that game is going to be a shootout. So grab that bring back, especially in a guy that we like with upside in Garrett Wilson. I can't think of really any other Jets that I want to mess with this week. Maybe Conklin, like if you're getting a one-off or something, but yeah, there's just no volume there. None of the, I know Elijah Moore had that late touchdown last week, but everything else is really just thin outside of Garrett Wilson and the running back situation. While we kind of like them in season long, maybe we'll get a little more clarity in Saturday, Sunday. If we get more clarity that like, hey, Michael Carter's not playing or something, we maybe then can consider Zonovan Knight as a decent pick. I mean, his workload, even with Carter healthy, was very nice. And, at low or virtually not being drafted, someone I might consider. But for right now, we'll get Garrett Wilson. We'll finish with Kirk Cousins. And as a quick recap, I mean, hey, we have 2 very, very high upside running backs, both with, injury risks. We've got our full game stack with our QB, our wide receiver, tight end, and the bring back with Garrett Wilson. A lot of ceiling outcomes, a lot of high upside opportunities here. Cousins really, just doesn't seem to have the level upside that we're looking for. But if we're going to do it, we're going to do it in highly concentrated offenses with 2 of his pass catchers. So give me like a 26, give me a 28. Hope that, you don't have Josh Allen on the slate. So hope that Mahomes doesn't go for it. Lamar's not fully healthy, no Fields. It can definitely work out. Okay, we're looking at Darren's earlier. Let's take a quick look. So Darren got that little game stack here. He's going to have to do a QB. Let's see. What are you going to do, Darren, with the QB? Because obviously I can't. Okay, well, I'm not able to go back. But Darren, let us know in chat. What did you end up going with? Okay. Let's see. Any other questions there? Any thoughts? Happy to kind of jump through before we jump through another. How do you set swaps? I'll go ahead and take it. Probably worth checking out some of my early videos, Jay Steele, where I kind of go a lot more in detail on the specifics of the swaps and the strategy. But as a very simple, how do you set them? Is if you do absolutely nothing, it'll then just automatically swap for you on ADP. If you want to manually set your swaps, then you just set your rankings when the games are, starting on Sunday, and whatever you have as the highest rank for that position, it'll automatically swap it out for you. Okay, let's jump in another. I'm hoping I get that number 1 overall this time. I really do think that, getting like when you look at the others, I mean, like I think Kelsey's likelihood of just being tight end 1 is so much greater than any other person and the likelihood of them getting number 1 at their position. And then, so that's just from like a median standpoint. And then you consider like the upside and like the ceiling scenarios. And other than like, Mark Andrews, like no one just has the tight end ceiling from the team that they're on, their usage, the usage in the red zone. And yeah, like I'm still on the team that right now Kelsey is the number one overall for rest of season. And in battle royales, it feels like a lot of times it's kind of him or Josh Allen, depending on what the slate looks like. But yeah. Okay. We got a lot of badges here. We got D-Champ with a 1 overall, Raisin, Baskelson, T-Box, M. Newtsy. How are we doing? Let's get another good draft. Okay, so we're going to have 4-9. Actually, the same spot we were at last time. We'll kind of try to mix it up a little here, make sure we get a bit of a different draft. No fun to just kind of run the same thing back. Let's see what Baskel gives us. Trying to stretch. Like if he gives us Devontae, we'll take Devontae. Not going to reach for Jacobs. The Mahomes here. I think earlier in the week, I already saw like people were, there we go. Okay, we'll grab Devontae. We're already getting some like Mahomes, Kelsey ones. There's an uphill battle there. And you just don't feel good about any other Kansas City pass catchers right now. Maybe Juju, an extra week removed from the concussion. Hopefully his snap count's going to increase. We know last week he was on a bit of a snap. He only had 21 snaps or something. Let's see. Due to an illness. Okay, hopefully he'll be good by then. But worth noting. Okay, so we got Devontae here. Don't really have much interest in Derek Carr. So we're happy to take Devontae as a one-off or build around kind of a Justin Herbert type lineup. Eckler went 2 overall, so you're not going to get Eckler as a Devontae bring back. That's going to be a very hard combo this week anyways. I think we go with just the elite wide receiver aspect here. No need to really. We could go Jalen Hurts and then AJ Brown is the second. It's tempting. That's tempting. But AJ, I'm not sure it's a guarantee. AJ Brown's ADP is 12. Would he have fallen to us? I don't know. And so I think for that AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts combo, I think you're probably just going to see a bunch of people that 12-13 going with it, where they start off with Kelsey and they know that they can get them both. So they grab both Jalen and AJ. So in my mind, you already have that as kind of a very popular stack. And I don't think it's worth risking grabbing one of those without the other when you have, 6 picks in between the two. So there's D-Champ grabbing Jalen. Now grab. Okay, so yeah. So Baskelson went with the AJ Brown, as you talked about, but that's the risk, is that someone in between can break up your stack. Jalen Hurts happened here. So that's why I'll probably stay away from Jalen or AJ unless I'm at that 12-13 and I know I can stack them together. So we have our 2 wide receivers. We're pretty good there. One thing to note as well is, as I was looking through the ranks this week, I think this is probably going to be a very heavy running back flex week. The flex wide receivers, so basically those 13 to 18 guys, so outside of everyone needing their 2, are a substantial, around 3 or so points projected lower than the 7 to 12 running backs, which are outside of the 1 that you need. So I think we're going to see a lot of running backs this week. We could go McCaffrey. I'm going to go with Andrews here. As I kind of mentioned before, my strategy for Andrews is kind of just going to be for tight ends, going to be a little just don't get cute. And so I'm happy to grab Andrews there. If Lamar falls back, I'll grab Lamar here for this stack. Or do we want to go Burrow? Let's see. I think Newtsy is actually going to be grabbing Burrow. Yep, that makes sense. Grab that Bengal stack there. No, okay. So let's grab Lamar. We're going to get this Baltimore one. Denver had been very good against the pass, but I don't know. At the end of the day, it's really not. The team is just so atrocious, and I think a lot of why they're good against the pass is a lot of it comes down to just slow, low-scoring games. Baltimore's defense has actually been very sneaky bad recently. And so they've kind of been playing some poor opponents, so they've been able to mask it. But like Trevor Lawrence pretty much had his way on that secondary last week. I'm not saying that this is going to be the game that he breaks out, but if Lamar is healthy and we get the Lamar that we're looking for, maybe Mark Andrews gets a little redemption on that drop touchdown pass last week. Could turn into a bit of it's horrible. It's so impossible to call anything that Denver's in a shootout. But like, I don't know, maybe Denver could actually put up 21 points or something and force kind of Lamar to go. I'm not going to be doing a bring back for this Denver game at all. I say that I'm like, do I want to consider Latavius Murray? Oh, it's so ugly, but like he's getting a little volume. He's getting pass catching work. I don't know. We'll see. It's an off the board play. It fits for this build where we're going to be grabbing 2 late running backs. Yeah, as ugly as it feels to draft him, I can tell you that's why not many people, if any, are going to be drafting him. So we'll see what we're working with at the top of it. Okay, we got 2 more picks. We're going to be grabbing probably 2 running backs here. This is a good opportunity to grab Etienne. His ADP is a little lower because of the injury risk. Reports were that like he could have returned to the game last week. It was just the same ankle and the same foot that he's had the issues before, so they wanted to hold him out. Again, Detroit, Coors Field. Happy to kind of use Etienne, and because I'm drafting him with my 5th round pick, like if he doesn't play, I'm literally losing nothing because the other guy that I'm going to swap to, I'd basically be choosing right now. So in that scenario, I'm actually gaining value because on Sunday I can make a decision on who's the optimal swap from an ownership, projections, health, all that standpoint. From a bring back, is there anything I want to consider here? You could go with a Jamal Williams. DeAndre Swift is, for the first time, not on the injury report this week. He actually played more than Justin Jackson last week. Maybe that signals he's going to get a bit more workload. I'm not sure. Feels a little meh. I think I'll probably honestly, we don't have anything off the board at all right now. Dalvin, David. Thinking. I'm going to go David Montgomery with a 35.5 ADP. Everyone else on my team is pretty chalky, so I think it's more valuable to drop a tiny bit in projections, but get a player that is not being drafted much. I mean, hey, 35.5. Oh, I don't have my spreadsheet up right now. 35.5 top of head is probably being drafted around like 15 to 20% drafts. Okay. Now I can take a look back at some chat. Let me go through these. Mike asked, if you're planning on taking Mahomes, who do you feel best about stacking him with since Kelsey is almost impossible to get? I know it's dangerous. I think it's got to be Juju though. The Juju situation for me is that, hey, like, he missed practice yesterday because of illness. Usually, as long as he gets healthy, that's not going to impact his on-play field. His lack of usage last week was because he was coming off of the concussion, or at least that's what I believe. So, like, the few weeks that he was healthy before that, we were seeing like 3 very, very solid weeks for him. So Juju would be my definitely my top choice there. But I agree, like, it feels a little tough. And it's probably why I'll probably be a little light on Mahomes this week, and going for some other opportunities there. Yeah, I mean, honestly, naked Mahomes is also perfectly fine. I don't disagree with that either. I'd still lean Juju a little, but like if you're going Mahomes enough, like you can definitely match in some naked, because again, we need ceiling outcomes, and it's very possible that Mahomes rushes 1 or 2 in, gets passes to, I don't know, maybe Sky Moore, maybe Jody Fortson, like random guys, and still finishes as QB1, but you still need the 20 points out of the wide receiver, and Juju doesn't give you that. And maybe Kelsey has a moderate game. Big Trev asking, do you like Rashad or Kamara better? Seems like Lenny's going to play, but how much? I don't really love either of them. If that's a season-long question, I'm sorry, but maybe I could just use the ETR ranks there. But for Battle Royale, I don't have a great love for either of them. If Lenny doesn't play, then Rashad's probably going to be an amazing swap option. I don't know what, let me check their ADPs real quick and what we're looking at. Rashad White. Oh, that's not even on the main slate. Get out of here, Big Trev, with your silly questions. All right. Mahomes bring back easier than stack with Quells. Yep, I agree with that. And that's for one, like, it's easier to get that bring back. And if Mahomes has his large game, you probably think the other tide's going to put up some points. So maybe kind of focus on that. Specifically, like, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, maybe Hayden Hurst if you get kind of ugly. Mixon has the Q tag, but that's a great one where you can play him. If he doesn't play, you move into Samaje and so forth. Yeah, lots of good options there. Okay, this was fun. Any other questions? Let me know. Once again, as always, I know I asked this and it's much appreciated, but it's the reason why I'm able to keep coming back. If you can put a comment in the YouTube channel, ask a question, we can answer it. Or if you, hey, just enjoy these, appreciate the kind words saying that. That's what allows me to keep coming back. And as always, feel free to shout out on Twitter, give me a DM. If you've got a sweat, let us know. Always happy to cheer for all you guys. And okay, last final question, Keenan. How do you do this? I can only find the 6-man ones. So if you just go to the drafts lobby, it's these tournaments up here. So Battle Royale Week 13, this is what we've been doing. It is still a 6-man draft, but it's taking your 5-person team and comparing it to the other 11,000 people in the entrance and then competing for these top prizes of $25K up top. Okay. This is fun. Best of luck, everyone. Enjoy your Week 13. Enjoy the rest of your week. And as always, I'll be on Twitter, and I'll see you next week. Enjoy, everyone. Where's the outro button? Worst producer ever right here.